identity of the hostage. It is critical to understand that every hostage situation is unique. Instead of an established protocol and entrenched culture, which often devolves over time into a rote reaction, our government must be prepared to draw upon existing resources to assemble a uniquely qualified team to craft a thoughtful, measured response on a case-by-case basis. This does not require the creation of a new agency. Existing resources already dedicated are sufficient. The problem lies in efficiency and effectiveness. As Gary writes in his book, and as he just said, efforts should first and foremost be focused on the safe release of the hostage. There is no one, not anyone, in the government whose singular mission is the welfare and return of the hostage. Every government agency has its own mission and agenda. The FBI is pursuing a criminal investigation. State is concerned with matters of foreign policy. The White House focuses on national security. All of these entities have a CYA protocol and are inherently inside the box and intrinsically risk-averse. Largely because of these issues, it is only recently, after more than 2 years, that our government is in direct discussion with the Syrian government about Austin. Of course, we are encouraged by this development, and our fondest hope is that his captors are identified, and this will soon become negotiation for his secure release and safe return. To avoid this kind of delay, we support the idea of designating a single point of accountability with direct report to the President, who may have the title Interagency Hostage Recovery Coordinator. In every hostage case, this individual will have the singular mission of securing the soonest and safest return of the hostage. All communication will be coordinated and effectively shared through this entity. This individual should be the full depository for every last bit of information and intelligence relevant to the hostage situation. Drawing from every agency and resource available and after a careful evaluation, this individual will designate an appropriate lead agency. There should be no aspect of our government's response which falls into a default mode. So, how does the family fit into the communication matrix? And what is our position on the team? From our experience, we can only guess this is not at all addressed in whatever is considered to be the current policy. We have asked and asked and asked to be vetted and to be given clearance so we can have unfettered access to all available information about our son. Similar to Gary's experience that he wrote about in his book, we have agreement from individuals at the highest level that this is a reasonable request. What we have not been able to overcome are the twin obstacles of protocol and culture. No entity nor agency is willing to take the risk of doing something so new and different because, well, you know, what if? In spite of all of our efforts and meetings and trips to the region, we are still not valued as contributing members of the team. The FBI especially still considers us a part of the problem and a risk to be contained and managed. From our perspective and based on our commitment and capabilities, we find this both offensive and absurd. We continue to ask for security clearance because we feel that as appropriately vetted family members, we can be an essential and critical part of the team. As things are now, it is quite likely we would be the only team members with the clear and singular objective of Austin's soonest safe return. Of course, no discussion of hostage policy would be complete without a mention of ransom. Since we do not know who is holding Austin, we have had no opportunity for negotiation nor request for ransom. Gary's already addressed the issue. I'm sure that Barack will speak to it more. I will say, Mark and I agree with Gary that we should not let our desire to punish terrorist kidnappers cloud our judgment and restrict our options. Our efforts should first and foremost be focused on the safe release of the hostage. We must have a wide range of tools available in our toolbox and learn to use them appropriately. Thank you, Gary. Well said. Peter, I appreciate the opportunity to speak today and to know the subject of hostage policy is receiving the attention it deserves. So this experience may be less horrid for others. Nonetheless, our absolute highest priority remains the safe and soon return of our beloved son, Austin. We continue to be profoundly grateful to everyone inside and outside our government who has helped with our case. If you have not already done so, go to our website and sign the petition to our president, urging him to do all he can to bring Austin safely home. Also, if you have connections which can help us receive security clearance so we can be fully informed about our son's case, please talk to me after the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deborah. Barack.
Thank you, Peter. I think Gary and Deborah said most of the things that were pertinent to the cases. I want to touch upon a couple things, and I'll talk about some things in detail. First of all, I was very intimately involved in one of the cases, and one of the things I would like that I learned, and I think is very important for anybody who deals with these cases, I wouldn't believe 98% of what you read in the press. Things are taken out of context or distorted. People don't have the right information, and that's very important. When you come to a situation like this, and especially for me and for Debbie as well, we don't have any experience, so there's a learning curve. We start at the bottom and we get better. We have more and more of an understanding of what's going on and get more experience. And one of the things that we learn very early on is the bureaucracy. And the bureaucracy is an impediment to facilitating progress, and it's reactionary. And I remember what Dick Morris wrote. I think it was in the book The New Prince or The New Red Prince or whatever. He said, every 4 years or 8 years, a new administration comes in with lots of ideas, and the bureaucracy knows that all it has to do is hunker down for a couple of years, block the initiatives, and the initiatives will die out. And that's the same thing for people like us. We go in there, we have ideas, we want answers, and the FBI and the State Department, they've been doing these things for years, and they're not going to shake trees just because we ask them to do it. The FBI is very, very cautious. It's going to work very slowly. It doesn't when there's opportunity for something to happen. Let's say you get an email from the kidnappers, or you're in communication with them, it's going to work very slow and very cautiously. It's not going to want to have as much hope and optimism and see some type of horizon as the families will. Also had a problem with the FBI's lack of cultural understanding. They didn't understand what they were dealing with in the region. That ISIS was a state. It was very easy for people like us who had been spending time in the region to know that ISIS could act with impunity. This wasn't a replay of the kidnappings in the 1980s in Lebanon, where the Shia radicals kidnapped Westerners, and they'd move them around, or they'd put them in houses and villages with false doors and bottoms. These guys these hostages were being held in bases and prisons that people could go in and out of, that people could get us information. They came out, someone came out, he had information, or a prisoner came out, he had information. So many times.
You say came out, was released.
Yes, well, in some cases, released. Somebody goes in to do something in the prison, he comes out, and he says, I've seen Westerners. We had so many cases of Syrian prisoners being released, escaping, seeing Westerners. Unfortunately, a lot of this wasn't real time. Most of these times, it's just like a Hollywood movie. They slipped through our fingers. We had them in a location a week or two ago. We didn't have definitive real-time information until the hostages began to be released. When you talk about the FBI, Debbie hit upon it, it's a law enforcement thing for them. When they debrief hostages, they're more interested in putting together a case against the hostage takers as opposed to finding the hostage takers and trying to get a solution to the problem. And a problem for people like us is that we saw the government, and the agencies as an iceberg. We dealt with so few people above water, above ground, and they interact and interfaced with the other agencies, so we didn't know what was going on, and it was hard to know anything when people aren't giving you information. Peter briefly spoke about negotiating, and you'll talk to the terrorists, but you won't give them anything. The FBI is like a Moses. It'll bring you the promised land. It'll help you craft emails. It'll help you try to facilitate negotiations to bring them home, but it will not deliver the money. It will not bring the money. It will do everything else, which it's very puzzling. For me, it's not difficult to understand. I mean, I can understand this because they'll say, well, we have plausible deniability. We didn't negotiate with terrorists. We didn't facilitate anything. We didn't do anything. And that can't be proved. It can't be proved in a court of law. But for the families, it's so confusing. The families are trying to learn so much, and they don't understand these nuances and these details that people in government have been working with for so many years, and it just compiles their frustrations and their challenges and their dilemmas. It's just one more thing that they don't understand. And at the end of the day, these families get overwhelmed. They just do not know the juggernaut that they're facing down, that stands before them. They are just so overwhelmed. Sometimes either they shut down and let everything go over their head, or they just get so flustered and confused that they cannot function anymore. One of the problems we had, I think Debbie touched upon it, the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. The FBI and the State Department, when you put those two in the room, there's nobody that has priority over the other. They're both independent agencies. They can't tell each other what to do. And in many cases, they don't know what they're doing unless, what Debbie said, you connect the dots. Unless you tell them what the other agency did, or you're waiting for a review from one agency and the other agency doesn't know what's going on, is not in the loop, they're not going to know. And it is just so frustrating that you see things and you can create your own horizons and vistas, and the government agencies, these guys can't. And you just wonder, what the heck are they doing all day? Congress. Congress is a very important role. I've spoken out about our frustrations with the administration. Debbie touched briefly on it. Congress is your best friend. Your congressmen from your home state are always going to help you. They will write letters to the president. They'll write letters to the head of the FBI. They'll write letters to the head of the CIA. They'll ask questions if you want in open hearings, in closed hearings. Those are your best friends in these situations. And again, that goes back to your learning curve. We didn't know that at the beginning until we started getting ferreted around Congress. One of the things, so I have a lot of experience in the Arab world. In the Arab world, people always tell you, no, you can't do something.